Stop replanting hostas just to feed the deer. By sunrise, they are gone. Not wilted gone, bare green stems, like someone trimmed your whole garden overnight. Here is the secret nobody tells you. Plant Russian sage instead, and the deer walk right past it. Today I am giving you 9 perennials deer refuse to touch. Each one scored on the Rutgers deer chart, where an A means rarely damaged. And more important, I will mark the exact 5 that are completely safe for your cats and dogs. My grandmother always said, a deer reads your garden with its nose long before it takes a bite. She was right. And every spring, we make the same 3 mistakes. We replant the exact things deer love most. We buy the spray that washes off after one rainstorm. And we put up a fence the deer simply walk around. None of it works because the problem was never having deer. The problem is the menu. Size. These 9 plants flip that menu. They come with built-in defenses, heavy scented oils, fuzzy leaves, and a bitter taste. To a deer, brushing past one of these is like walking into a room drenched in heavy perfume. They turn right around. Here is how this works. First, the plants that win on smell. Then the ones that win on texture. Then the bitter and toxic group deer learn to never touch. And at the end, the 5 I would plant today, the ones that are both deer-resistant and pet-safe, with the exact spacing to put them in the ground. It is about 10 minutes. Stick to the end for a simple planting checklist. Let us start with smell, because this is the door deer hate to open. Number 1. Russian sage. Rutgers rates it an A, rarely damaged. Those silvery leaves are packed with aromatic oils, and to a deer, it smells like that over-perfumed room, so they back off every single time. Here is why that matters for you. The ASPCA lists Russian sage as non-toxic, so your dogs and cats can play right next to it. It is the safest place to start. Number 2. Salvia nemorosa. Same trick, minty aromatic foliage a deer would rather skip, plus spikes of purple-blue flowers from late spring into summer. My neighbor swapped one tired flower bed for a row of salvia, and for the first time in years, she actually got to watch her own flowers bloom, instead of finding them chewed to the stem at dawn. It is pet-safe too, and the bees and butterflies love it. Number 3. Lavender. Deer almost never touch it. That scent is simply too strong for them, and a single sweep of lavender can help shield the plants around it. One honest heads up though, lavender can be toxic to cats and dogs if they eat it, and the ASPCA lists it. So, if you have a curious pet, keep this one in a raised bed or somewhere out of reach. Now the second group texture. Some plants just feel wrong in a deer's mouth. Number 4. Lamb's ears. Rutgers gives it an A. The leaves are covered in soft, silvery fuzz, and to a deer, it is like licking a dry wool sweater, so they leave it alone. It stays low, spreads into a beautiful silver carpet, and it is completely pet-safe. We are halfway, and number 5 is my favorite for a shady corner the deer keep raiding. Brunnera Jack Frost. Heart-shaped frosted silver leaves with tiny blue flowers like forget-me-nots. The slightly rough leaves do not appeal to deer. It is pet-safe, and it is the prettiest stand-in for the hostas you lost. But before we reach the bitter group, here is a paradox you need to hear. Plant number 7 is one of the most deer-proof things you can grow. And yet, it is the one plant I would never let my dog dig up. Here is why. Inhale. Group 3. Bitter and toxic. These taste bad or upset a deer's stomach, and one bad bite is all it takes. A deer remembers it for good. Number 6. Geranium roseanne. This hardy perennial geranium has faintly bitter foliage deer tend to pass right by, and it blooms violet blue from early summer until the first frost. It takes sun to part shade, it is pet safe, and it simply does not quit flowering. And here is that paradox. Number 7. Daffodils. Rutgers rates them an A. Every part of the plant contains a compound called lycorine. It is bitter and it makes animals sick, so deer learned long ago to leave them alone. But that same toxin is why the ASPCA lists daffodils as toxic to cats and dogs. So they are bulletproof against deer, and that is exactly why you plant them where your pets do not dig. Number 8. Bearded iris. Deer generally skip the tough, slightly bitter foliage, and you get tall, sculptural blooms in almost every color you can imagine. One heads up, the ASPCA lists iris as toxic to pets, mostly the underground rhizomes, so keep curious dogs from digging them up. And number 9, the peony. Big, lush, almost extravagant blooms, and deer usually walk right past thanks to the bitter foliage and dense petals. A peony can live for decades in the same spot. Just note the ASPC lists peonies as toxic to cats and dogs, so cite them away from where your pets play. So that is the 9. Quick but important, deer-resistant is not deer-proof. In a hard winter, or where deer are crowded and hungry, they may nibble even an A-rated plant. These are the ones they avoid first, not a force field. The good news, 5 of these are both deer-resistant and pet-safe. And those are the ones we plant right now. Let us plant those 5. Russian sage, salvia, lamb's ears, brunnera, Jack Frost, and geranium roseanne. All 5 thrive in USDA zones 5 through 8, and the first 4 are hardy all the way down to zone 4. 3 simple steps. Step 1. Match sun and shade. Russian sage, salvia lamb's ears, and geranium want full sun, at least 6 hours in well-drained soil. Brunnera is your shade player, so give it 2 to 4 hours of soft, filtered light. Put each plant where it actually wants to live, and it will shrug off both the deer and the weather. Step 2. Spacing and layering. Put Russian sage at the back. It is the tallest at around 2 to 3 feet. Geranium roseanne in the middle, then salvia lamb's ears and brunnera up front as ground cover. Space them about 18 inches apart, center to center, so they fill in without crowding each other. Step 3. Plant and settle them in. Dig a hole twice as wide as the pot, set the plant level with the soil and water it deeply. Add 2 to 3 inches of mulch, but keep it about 2 inches back from the stems so they do not rot. Water 2 or 3 times a week through that first season while the roots take hold. And here is the best part. No deer spray needed. Right plant, right spot, and you are done. Quick recap. Deer are not eating your garden because you are unlucky. They are eating the plants they love most. 9 perennials change that, using smell, fuzzy leaves, or a bitter taste. And 5 of them, Russian sage, salvia, lamb's ears, brunnera, and geranium roseanne, are pet-safe and easy to plant in 3 steps. Remember the question from the start? The prettiest pet-safe swaps for those eaten hostas are brunnera, Jack Frost for the shade, and geranium roseanne for the sun. Do one thing now. Save this video so it is ready on your next planting day and screenshot the list of 9. Then tell me your USDA zone in the comments and I will suggest the best of these for your yard. My grandmother would have loved knowing the deer finally walk right past. Happy gardening!